Hey friends, welcome back to College Sports Corner. I'm Barry. Hey, it's Thursday. We got one more day of the week, one more day to work, and then finally we get to Saturday with all these big games coming up. Last Saturday, a lot of people said it was going to be lame. We had some good games. I thought it was a pretty good, decent Saturday. Usually in the past, those lame Saturdays you get like one or two, maybe three good games if you're lucky. But this year we seem to have had quite a few more on that lame Saturday. Probably about five, six, maybe even seven good games. So even though it's categorized as a lame Saturday, we had some pretty good games, but not as good as this Saturday. This Saturday's probably the gauntlet of the season. Got a lot of good teams going up against each other. Undefeated, ones with one loss, some with two loss. A lot of good games Saturday. It gets started tonight. We'll go over those games. First of all, hey, if you like the show, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. So let's get started with some news and headlines. Conference USA is basically almost extinct now. Old Dominion and Southern Miss have both left for the Sun Belt Conference. I don't know what's going on over there at Conference USA. This all seems to have just happened in the last month or two. And pretty soon they're going to be non-existent. I don't know what's going on. If it's mismanagement, teams aren't happy with the way things are going there. I'm not sure, but pretty safe to say Conference USA is probably going to be pretty much no more, or it's going to be dropping down to a lower tier, worse than they are now. But I don't know. It's crazy what's going on over there. People are leaving left and right. Tennessee Falls quarterback Harrison Bailey is entering the transfer portal. He had started two games last year and maybe played a little bit this year, but he said that's enough. I guess he's tired of being a backup or whatever, and he's leaving, going to transfer portal. Where he'll end up, who knows? This is interesting here. Bowl season. Evidently, this is the first I've ever heard of this. I mean, and I love college football, but I've never really heard of this organization called Bowl Season. They represent the 43 postseason bowls. So I guess it's some kind of coalition or something. They have asked that the CFP, when they expand the playoff, that they incorporate the bowls into this playoff system, where the CFP was going to play the first round, maybe even the second round at home stadiums. And they even want a seat on the CFP table committee also. I've always thought they should incorporate the playoff system into the bowls, but if they expand it out really big, they really ought to start the first rounds in home stadiums. I think that would be really cool. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know what the CFP is going to say about all this yet. I haven't seen anything, so something we'll just keep an eye on, I guess. Coach O at LSU says he's got too many players injured to practice. I don't know what else to say about that. That's what he says, and LSU's kind of taking a nosedive. Have some good high moments, and then they nosedive right back down. So I don't know. The ACC announced that they want to leave Greensboro. That's been their home since 1953. Couldn't find any reasons why. They just said they're looking for a new place to move their headquarters. Charlotte makes a lot of sense. That's where the ACC championship game is. And I think the ACC basketball conference tournament's there too. So that would make a lot of sense for them, but for some reason they're leaving. They've been there since 1953. Okay, your pregame shows. College game day is going to be a Michigan State game. SEC Nation is going to be at the Florida-Georgia game. Big Ten tailgate is going to be an Indiana-Maryland game. And Fox Big Noon Kickoff is also going to be at Michigan and Michigan State. All right, tonight you got a couple games. 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. South Florida 2-5, East Carolina 3-4. South Florida is averaging 351 total yards. East Carolina is averaging 421 total yards. Pirates quarterback Halton Althers, 1,768 passing yards this season, 10 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Tonight, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN2. This one might be a decent one to watch. Troy 4-3 at Coastal Carolina 6-1. Troy is averaging 354 total yards a game, and Coastal Carolina is averaging 523 total yards a game. And Coastal Carolina quarterback Grayson McCall, 1,769 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and only 1 interception this year. That's pretty impressive. Tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN2, Navy 1-6 at Tulsa 3-4. Navy's averaging 280 total yards a game. Tulsa's averaging 457 total yards a game. Tulsa quarterback Davis Brin, 1,914 passing yards, 10 TDs, and 10 interceptions to match those TDs. So tomorrow night, late one, 10 p.m. Eastern, CBS Sports Network. Well, I mean, if you want to stay up late and watch this one, UNLV 0-7 and Nevada 5-2. Looks like a battle for the great state of Nevada there. UNLV is averaging 296 total yards a game. Nevada is averaging 459 total yards a game. Wolfpack quarterback Carson Strong has passed for 2,466 yards this season, 20 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. Nevada is averaging 80 rushing yards this year. 80 rushing yards a game, so it's mostly through the air for them. Okay, Saturday, noon Eastern, CSS. I guess that's Comcast Sports something or another. Virginia Tech 3-4 at Georgia Tech 3-4. Hokies are averaging 330 total yards a game. Yellow Jackets are averaging 427 total yards a game. Yellow Jackets have a better pass and rushing numbers than the Hokies. Virginia Tech, like we've talked about before, they had a big win against North Carolina at the beginning of the year, and then they've kind of just been up and down the whole year. So, I don't know. There are a lot of people saying this is probably Fuente's last season. They're going to look for someone else, but we'll see. Noon Eastern on Big Ten Network. Indiana 2-5 at Maryland 4-3. Indiana averaging 310 total yards. Maryland is averaging 422 total yards a game. Hoosiers average under 200 yards in passing and rushing each game. Terps quarterback Talua, like I said, I ain't going to try to say his last name again because I always butcher it. 1,965 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Not too bad for him. Noon Eastern on ACC Network. Miami 3-4 versus Pittsburgh 6-1. Miami is averaging 433 total yards a game, and Pitt is averaging 521 total yards a game. And Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett's got 2,236 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and 1 interception this whole year. Both teams average under 200 yards a game for rushing, so it's mostly passing for these guys. Noon Eastern, ESPN Plus. Central Florida 4-3 at Temple 3-4. UCF is averaging 420 total yards a game, and Temple's averaging 325 total yards a game. Both teams barely break the 200 passing yard average every game, so both of them have some work to do. Noon Eastern on BTN, Big Ten Network. Rutgers 3-4, Illinois 3-5. Rutgers is averaging 336 total yards a game, and Illinois is averaging 323 total yards a game. Noon Eastern on Fox. I don't know why this game's not a primetime game or at least a later afternoon game. Why it's a noon kickoff, I don't know. Noon Eastern, Michigan 7-0 at Michigan State 7-0. Wolverines are averaging 253 rushing yards, 190 passing yards, and 443 total yards a game. Michigan State's averaging 200 rushing yards, 251 passing yards, and 452 total yards a game. Spartan quarterback Peyton Thorne, he's got the better stats. 1,701 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. It's a disappointment to me this isn't a night game, but it is what it is. Noon Eastern on ESPN. Iowa 6-1 at Wisconsin 4-3. Iowa's averaging 311 total yards a game, and Wisconsin's averaging 365 total yards a game. Hawkeyes have a better passing game, but the Badgers have a way better rushing game than Iowa. So looks like it might be a battle through the air and on the ground. We'll see what happens. Noon Eastern on ESPNU. Texas State 2-5. Louisiana Lafayette 6-1. Bobcats averaging 354 total yards. Raging Cajuns are averaging 428 total yards. Both quarterbacks in this game have thrown for over 1,400 yards this season. Noon Eastern on ABC. Texas 4-3 at Baylor 6-1. Texas is averaging 457 yards a game, and Baylor is averaging 471 yards a game. Texas quarterback Casey Thompson's got 1,274 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Running back Bijan Robinson's got 924 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. Baylor quarterback Jerry Bohannon's got 1,563 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception. And Baylor running back Abram Smith, 785 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. And everybody was high on Sark when he got hired. And I said, he'll probably do a pretty good job there. And they were doing decent there for a while, and then they lost to Arkansas. Well, then they started winning again and playing like Texas used to play. And then they've lost a couple of more. So I don't know if the media is falling out of love with Texas. They were kind of high on them, about a month ago or so. But noon Eastern, ESPN2, Cincinnati 7-0 at Tulane 1-6. Cincinnati is averaging 410 total yards, and Tulane's averaging 403 total yards. Cincy quarterback Desmond Ridder, 1,620 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Running back Jerome Ford, 795 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. Tulane quarterback Michael Pratt, he's got almost 1,600 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. With numbers like that, you wonder why Tulane's 1-6. I mean, heck, they almost beat Oklahoma. So, noon Eastern, CBS Sports Network, Bowling Green 2-6 at Buffalo 4-4. Bowling Green's averaging 315 total yards. Buffalo is averaging 415 total yards. And both quarterbacks have passed for over 1,600 yards this season, but both have under 10 touchdown passes. Noon Eastern, ESPN 3, UMass 1-6 at Liberty 6-2. UMass is averaging 286 total yards a game, 111 rushing yards, and 175 passing yards. So you see why they're kind of 1-6 right now. Liberty Flames quarterback Malik Willis, 1,684 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's also rushed for 647 yards and 9 touchdowns. 2 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus, Iowa State 5-2 and West Virginia 3-4. Iowa State's averaging 429 total yards a game. West Virginia is averaging 391 total yards a game. Iowa State, Brock Purdy has passed for 1,648 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Running back Breece Hall, 818 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. West Virginia quarterback Jarrett Dodge, 1,701 passing yards this season, 8 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN3, North Texas 1-6 at Rice 3-4. North Texas is averaging 421 total yards a game, and Rice is averaging 314 yards a game. North Texas averages are better in rushing and passing than Rice's is. But Rice, they started off kind of bad, but they're starting to win some games now. They keep this kind of play up, they might make be bowl eligible. 3 p.m. Eastern, no TV found on this one. Hawaii 4-4 at Utah State 5-2. Hawaii is averaging 423 total yards a game, and Utah State is averaging 465 total yards a game. Aggie quarterback Logan Bonner, 1,766 passing yards this year, 13 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. And Hawaii, they're coming over here to the mainland to play Utah State. But Hawaii just announced this week that they're going to start having full capacity at their stadium. I'm like, well, away game, you picked a heck of a week to announce that. But hey, Hawaii, welcome back. Thanks for joining the rest of us here on the mainland with the full capacity. 8 p.m. or 3 p.m. Eastern, FS1, Washington State 4-4 at Arizona State 5-2. Washington State is averaging 373 total yards. Arizona State's averaging 434 total yards a game. Cougar quarterback Jake DeLora, 1,739 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions this year. Sun Devils, they have a better rushing game, but the Cougars have a better passing game. So, you never know, it might be a shootout. All right, 3 p.m. Eastern, SEC Network. Missouri 3-4 at Vandy 2-6. Missouri's averaging 447 total yards a game, and Vanderbilt's averaging 291 total yards a game. Missouri quarterback Connor Baslick, 1,912 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions this year. Running back Taylor Brody, 743 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. Florida State at Clemson. Florida State is 3-4, and they're averaging 413 total yards. Clemson's 4-3, and averaging 321 total yards. DJ, the quarterback, I'm not going to try to say his name because I butcher it every time also. 1,102 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. And remember, the media and the whole country was high on this guy at the beginning of the year. But I wasn't really too high on him because when he came in for those 2 games last year against Boston College and Notre Dame, when he came in for Trevor Lawrence, they damn near lost that Boston College game, and they did end up losing to Notre Dame. So I wasn't high on him as a lot of the people were in the country media and all that. So but it does surprise me. I figured he had more touchdown passes than just 4. So I don't know. And a lot of people are speculating he's not going to stay there. He's going to go back home to California and play somewhere, but we'll see what happens. 3:30 Eastern on CSS, I guess the Comcast Sports, whatever. Boston College 4-3 at Syracuse 4-4. Boston College is averaging 369 total yards a game. Syracuse is averaging 422 total yards a game. Both quarterbacks have over 1,000 passing yards, but under 8 touchdowns each. 3:30 Eastern on ESPNU. TCU 3-4 at Kansas State 4-3. Horned Frogs are averaging 450 total yards a game, and Wildcats are averaging 360 yards a game. TCU quarterback Max Duggan has passed for almost 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Not too bad. 3:30 Eastern on the ESPN2. Purdue 4-3 and Nebraska 3-5. Purdue is averaging 392 total yards a game. Nebraska is averaging 479 total yards a game. Nebraska quarterback Adrian Martinez has almost 2,000 passing yards this year, 10 touchdowns. He's rushed for 420 yards and 10 more touchdowns. And you could tell by those numbers that mistakes have killed Nebraska this year. I mean, they've had mistakes everywhere. Penalties in the kicking game, everywhere. And have they had those mistakes, I would not doubt that Nebraska would have only 1, maybe 2 losses. But they just keep shooting themselves in the foot every week. 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Texas Tech 5-3 at Oklahoma 8-0. Texas Tech averaging 438 total yards. Oklahoma's averaging 469 total yards. And even though Caleb, I forget his last name, been playing a lot, the stats still favor Spencer Rattler. He's still got the best stats out of both those quarterbacks. 1,372 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Of course, it remains to be seen if he's going to play this week. It's probably a coin flip. Probably be Caleb instead of him, but, 3:30 Eastern on Big Ten Network. Minnesota 5-2 and Northwestern 3-4. Minnesota's averaging 360 total yards a game. Northwestern is averaging 350 total yards a game. Minnesota's got the better rushing game. They average over 200 rushing yards a game. And I think we've talked about it before, ever since their lead guy, Mohammed, I forget his last name, got hurt in that first game against Ohio State. They've had a lot of running backs on that team step up and score. So that's, they're keeping that rushing game going, even though their star went out that first game. Northwestern's got the slightly better passing game. They average 193 passing yards each game. 3:30 Eastern on Fox. Colorado 2-5 at Oregon 6-1. Colorado's averaging 238 yards a game, 121 rushing yards a game, and 117 passing yards a game. So it's not surprising they're 2-5. Oregon is averaging 198 rushing yards a game and 228 passing yards a game. I usually don't make predictions, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't think Colorado's going to win this game. So, 3:30 Eastern on the CBS. Georgia 7-0 versus Florida at 4-3. I know they don't like this saying, but it is the world's greatest outdoor cocktail party. I mean, that's never going to change. Bulldogs are averaging 430 total yards a game. And Gators are averaging actually a little bit more, 502 total yards a game. Georgia averages 193 rushing yards and 237 passing yards each game. Florida averages 254 rushing yards and 247 passing yards. So it's not an evenly matched game. I mean, I'm expecting Georgia to win. But you look at the numbers and you say Florida's got a chance. I mean, they really do. They've got a good offense. I don't know what's happened to them this year. I don't know if they're shooting themselves in the foot too, like Nebraska or what. But anyway, I'll be pretty good. Good rivalry game. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. Southern Miss 1-6 at Middle Tennessee 3-4. Southern Miss averages 258 total yards a game, and Middle Tennessee averages 348 total yards a game. Middle Tennessee quarterback Chase Cunningham has passed for 1,270 yards this season, 16 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Not too bad. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. Louisiana Monroe 4-3 at Appalachian State 5-2. Monroe averages 301 total yards a game, and App State averages 456 total yards a game. Law Monroe also averages 108 rushing yards and 194 passing yards each game. App State, they average 184 rushing yards and 272 passing yards each game. And App State quarterback Chase Bryce has passed for 1,842 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions this year. 3:30 Eastern on the Stadium. Florida International 1-6 and Marshall 4-3. Florida International averages 413 total yards a game, and Marshall averages 510 total yards a game. Panther quarterback Max Bartenschlager, 2,026 passing yards a game, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Marshall quarterback Grant Wells, 2,326 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions to match that. The running back, Roisin Ali, has rushed for 675 yards and 13 touchdowns this year. Let's see, 3:30 Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Louisiana Tech 2-5 at Old Dominion 1-6. Bulldogs average 392 yards a game, and the Monarchs average 360 total yards a game. Bulldog quarterback Austin Kendall has passed for 1,621 yards this year, 12 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Old Dominion does average more rushing yards each game than La Tech does, but it looks like a lot of it gets done through the air between these two teams. 4 p.m. Eastern on ACC Network. This will be a hell of a basketball game. Duke 3-4 at Wake Forest 7-0. Duke is averaging 472 total yards a game. Wake Forest is averaging 470 total yards a game. Duke quarterback Gunnar Holmberg has 1,750 passing yards. Running back Monteo Durant has rushed for 870 yards and 9 touchdowns. Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman, he's one of the best in the country. He goes up on the list with those other guys. 2,067 passing yards a game, 19 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And a lot of these quarterbacks having really good games, including Hartman. It would not surprise me at all if all the guys in New York are quarterbacks this year, because you got some good ones out there. 4 p.m. Eastern on FS2, Wyoming 4-3 at San Jose State 4-4. Cowboys average 322 total yards a game, and Spartans average 346 total yards a game. Wyoming is averaging 153 rushing yards and 169 passing yards, and San Jose State is averaging 121 rushing yards and 225 passing yards. San Jose State actually both these teams started out good and they kind of fell off the map this year. But it's not the seasons they were expecting. 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. Charlotte 4-3 at Western Kentucky 3-4. Charlotte's averaging 397 total yards a game, and Western Kentucky's averaging 543 total yards a game. Charlotte quarterback Chris Reynolds has passed for 1,537 yards this season, 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Listen to this guy here. Western Kentucky quarterback Bailey Zapp. I'm not sure how you say that correctly. 3,000 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. So again, you got another quarterback here. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in New York. Wide receiver Jarrett Stern has 1,077 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. 5 p.m. on Eastern on ESPN Plus. Arkansas State 1-6. It's South Alabama 4-3. Arkansas State's averaging 434 total yards a game, and South Alabama is averaging 392 total yards a game. Arkansas State quarterback Jason Blackman has passed for 1,334 yards this year. And South Alabama quarterback Jake Bentley has passed for 1,825 yards this year, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. Georgia State 3-4 at Georgia Southern 2-5. Looks like it's a battle for the great state of Georgia. Georgia State 386 total yards a game, and Georgia Southern 360 total yards a game. 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. UTEP 6-1 at Florida Atlantic 4-3. Miners are averaging 388 total yards a game. Florida Atlantic is averaging 440 total yards a game. UTEP quarterback Gavin Hardison, 1,549 passing yards and 8 touchdowns. And Owls quarterback Nakasi Perry, 1,696 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1. Kansas 1-6 at Oklahoma State 6-1. Kansas is averaging 324 total yards a game. Cowboys are averaging 375 total yards a game. Kansas averages 151 yards rushing each week and 183 passing yards each week. Hey, Oklahoma State might want to watch out. Kansas gave Oklahoma a hell of a game, almost beat them. Fell apart there at the end, but they can keep it together. You know they're probably hungry to beat one of these Oklahoma teams, and watch out, Cowboys, could be you. 7 p.m. Eastern on the Pac-12 Network. Oregon State 5-2 at Cal 2-5. Oregon State quarterback Chase Nolan, 1,261 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Quarterback for California Chase Garbers, 1,717 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. A couple of decent quarterbacks there. Might be a decent game. 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPNU. Arizona 0-7 at USC 3-4. Arizona's averaging 339 total yards. USC is averaging 445 total yards. USC quarterback Keldon Slovis, 1,818 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Wide receiver Drake London has got 1,003 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. USC is not that good, Arizona. This could be your first win of the season. Play smart, play strong, play hard. You never know. 7 p.m. Eastern, ESPN. Ole Miss 6-1 at Auburn 5-2. Ole Miss averaging 541 total yards. Auburn averaging 448 total yards. Ole Miss Matt Corral, 1,913 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception. Bo Nix is 1,488 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. 7 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Kentucky 6-1 at Mississippi State 4-3. Wildcats average 386 total yards. Bulldogs average 423 total yards. Kentucky quarterback Will Levis, 1,326 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Will Rogers from Mississippi State, 2,546 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Bulldogs, they only average 49 rushing yards a game. That's it. Their top rusher for the season now, we're in the 8th game. Their top rusher has 207 rushing yards. So I guess that's what they say about the Mike Riley air raid. Or not Mike Riley. So they say about the air raid. So Mike Leach. 7 p.m. Eastern, ESPN2. SMU 7-0 at Houston 6-1. SMU 524 total yards. Houston 364 total yards a game. SMU quarterback Tanner Mordosier 2,320 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Quarterback Clayton Tune, 1,427 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And there we go, Tanner Morday. That's probably the fourth or fifth quarterback we've named with impressive stats. So that's what I'm saying. It could be all quarterbacks there for the Heisman. SMU has a better rushing and passing averages per game than Houston does. So, but they are playing in Houston. Home field advantage could take effect there. 7 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Boise State 3-4, Colorado State 3-4. Boise's averaging 363 total yards a game, and Colorado State is averaging 407 total yards a game. Boise quarterback Hank Bachmeier, 1,951 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Rams quarterback Todd Centillo, 1,610 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Boise is another one of those teams that does it through the air because they only average 84 rushing yards a game. 7:30 Eastern on the ACC Network. Louisville 4-3 of North Carolina State 5-2. Louisville averaging 450 total yards, and NC State's averaging 424 total yards. Louisville quarterback Malik Cunningham, 1,684 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But he's rushed for 480 yards and 13 touchdowns. So maybe you could add him to that Heisman list. NC State quarterback Devin Leary, 1,844 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 7:30 Eastern on ABC. This was a game that looked like it might be pretty good at the beginning of the year. Now it may be, I don't know, just a game to check on every once in a while. Penn State 5-2 and Ohio State 6-1. Penn State's averaging 374 total yards. Ohio State's averaging 559 total yards. Nittany Lion quarterback Sean Clifford, 1,647 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Ohio State C.J. Stroud, 1,965 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Running back Travion Henderson, 693 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. And remember, towards the beginning of the year, especially after that Oregon loss, people were wondering if C.J. Stroud was the man to lead the Buckeyes, and he's come back, racked up a lot of yards, racked up a lot of points, and he's pretty much shut everybody up about that. So he's turned out to be a pretty good quarterback. 7:30 Eastern on NBC. North Carolina 4-3 and Notre Dame 6-1. North Carolina is averaging 471 total yards a game. Notre Dame 370 total yards a game. Sam Howell for North Carolina has 1,851 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And Jack Cohn for Notre Dame has 1,397 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Sam Howell was one I thought that would be maybe mentioned in the Heisman race. But after this year, I doubt it's going to happen. Even though he's a great quarterback, I mean, I'd take him on my team, but you know how it works there. Okay, we got 4 late games for all of us night owls who like to stay up all night, drinking beer till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, watching college football. So here's what we got: 10 Eastern on ESPN. This one looks like it's going to be a pretty good one. UCLA 5-3, Utah 4-3. UCLA averages 416 total yards a game, and Utah averages 409. Both teams are close in passing and rushing averages each game. So as I said, it might be a pretty good game to check out. Good late game. Now this one here looks like it's going to be a really good late game. 10:15 Eastern on ESPN2. Virginia 6-2 at BYU 6-2. Virginia averaging 540 total yards. BYU's averaging 402 total yards. Cavalier quarterback Brendan Armstrong has passed for 3,220 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Could be another quarterback there at the Heisman table at the end of the year. BYU running back Tyler Allgeier 856 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns. 10:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Washington 3-4. That's Stanford 3-4. Washington averaged 350 total yards. Stanford's averaging 352 total yards. Husky quarterback Dylan Morris has passed for 1,663 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Stanford quarterback Tanner McKee, 1,722 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Both teams have, I don't want to say horrible, but not so good rushing game. They do it all through the air. The passing games are a lot better. Two teams I really expected would be better this year than they are. But okay, the last one, 10:30 Eastern, CBS Sports Network. Fresno State 6-2, San Diego State 7-0. That could be a pretty good one. Bulldogs averaging 480 total yards. San Diego State 331 total yards. Bulldog quarterback Jake Harner, 2,582 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's another quarterback. Keep that up. You might be there at the Heisman at the end. Both these teams with these numbers, I mean, San Diego State's averaging 205 rushing yards a game and at least 127 passing yards a game. It's kind of weird that San Diego State is 7-0 with those averages each game, but I don't know. And see, okay, Hawaii, you laid an egg. You laid a big-time egg because full capacity at your basically brand new stadium. You've finally announced full capacity, and what do? Instead of having a late game that people can stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning watching, you decide to do this on the week. You go away to Utah State. So, way to go. You could have the big debut of all your fans back in your, like I said, new stadium, but you decided to do all this on a away game. So, congratulations to you, Hawaii. Okay, that's it. Man, we got one more day and the weekend's here, thank God. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for the weekend. Hey, enjoy your football. Enjoy your day. Be careful, be safe. And we will be back on Tuesday with a review of Week 9. I'm almost done with the basketball overview. A lot of teams I'm going through. I'm going to try to broadcast that next week sometime because I know the season starts here within the next 2 weeks. So we'll get that up. Anyway, you guys have a great day, have a great evening, and we will see you next time.